Long walk from democracy. My professor told me democracy only works if you have slaves. Knowing her stories of marching with students at UWC, knowing her stopping her car in the middle of Moradam or Robert Sobukwe Road. Here she got smashed and grabbed. She topped her Toyota Corolla to help an anxious horse over the street.
But more casual, he would ask, "Who are you?" Ungubani wena? Ungubani wena?
I am stationed and unyielding. I smell Belleville from inside the car. Goat, cow and horse herd. Smell of smoke and clicks of horse carts. The sound of waste pickers rollerblading down the main road, pushing their bathtubs. The taxis stealing a lane. I have never been late for work with a taxi, but I've always known I could have died that day. You get used to the roadkill, the smoke coming from burning shacks, and burnt necklaces are like an alarm, or the splendid splinters of a motorcycle, and the Lisbeek running out of the biker's head, and the sun makes it look like stargazing. This all used to be farmland before it became Belleville, she says. In the 1700s, the war took place right there, next to the Lisbeek River. Dutch East India Company against the Genokwas, or the Chogokwas, or the Chochokwas. Chogokwas, I say. I know it as observatory with the famous mental hospital Valkenburg. I know Gonema, Doman and Udusowa's people working in the Free Burgers' kitchen after the war. I know why it's called Kitchen Dutch. Potatoes peeled in chicken slaughter, bread knead and the remains fed to the dogs. And the OC today in the taxi is going to Constantianek to throttle and bottle in the morning. Or, yes madam, has changed to yes missus. And domestic worker has changed to employer. And the kindness you can take home. Leftovers from last night's dinner party. You smell the deviled eggs in the taxi. About Valkenburg, Prof says, you know, 1 year all the patients escaped and some of them were never located. I saw her crossing the street and getting into the car. We continue listening to Beethoven's. Was glad for the lift, but it suddenly comes loose in my head again. Democracy, or Rainbow Nation, or the World Cup 2010, the string of people standing like dominoes in the 94 election to vote. I was 4 years old. My passing. She is standing next to the post box, my mother. I have never seen her that real, that bare, that life.
Our policy is one which is called by an Afrikaans word apartheid. And I'm afraid that has been misunderstood so often.
What does the etymology of demo mean nowadays?
Perhaps much better be described as a policy of good neighborliness.
The ordinary city.
Accepting that there are differences between people.
See, I know it to be the diluted aura served at funerals, so
and you have to acknowledge them.
For
at the same time,
the stingy
you
people,
can live together, aid one another, but that it can best be done when you act as good neighbors always do.
Yesterday I read Professor van der Ross's Up from Slavery. He says there can be no slavery where there are no nomads. You need community for that. You need people to stay. And I asked, but what is the diaspora then? He has passed and I can't ask him. I've never been to Robben Island. Every time the weather doesn't play along, and I'm happy for the refund and the real excuse. I travelled overseas to the Netherlands in 2017 for the very first time to read my Afrikaans poetry translated to Dutch, and everyone's eyes were stargazing at the Dutch translation, and I can only assume they listened to me. I held on to my passport like a gun in a war. If I failed at locating it in my bag, gunshots went off in my hands. If I got lost here, or I wear my hair natural and my clothes second-hand to fight against capitalism, but this look makes me look homeless everywhere. All the while, I'm trying to explain to the organizer, I do not speak African, I speak Afrikaans. And I confuse her when I try to explain the difference. Or lost in translation.
Pangalan ko po ay
Bientang zal ik jullie zien. Vroeger, vroeg,